we're going to cover iPhoto today. Um, in the main, we're taking more photographs than we've ever taken before. People have phones with really good cameras on them. The majority of people who are in here by far use their phone as their primary camera. We've got one person with a point and shoot, old style, and 5 people who use an SLR, and I'm sure some of you use both. Those of you who use SLRs, I'm sure that if you haven't got your SLR with you and you've got your phone with you, you'll whip it out and take it. Now, one of the reasons I asked this question is because when you take pictures with your SLR, it doesn't automatically synchronize with photos. Whereas if you have an iPhone and you're part of the iCloud ecosystem, you don't even have to worry about syncing your stuff. So I'm going to spend less time about syncing and more time about arranging your information. So once again, let me share my screen and let's dive into it. Okay, let's open Photos. And here we have Photos. So the first thing that you want to do is to get your pictures into your photo library. Now, I'll deal with iCloud in a second, but if you have a device that has a USB or Wi-Fi, like some SLRs do, you'll need to connect your computer to your phone or your camera to your computer. And when you do, it appears on the left-hand side as a device. So if I click on Devices, just open up my phone. And it's going to look at all the photos on my phone. You can see it's already imported 542, and there's 215 items that it's yet to import. So I can select a range of images. I can get the checkbox next to them. And if I click Import For, it'll import them into my computer. It knows already some that I've done. So if I've chosen some which are already imported, it'll say, I've already got this. Are you sure you want to do that? And it gives me a choice of managing how I bring stuff into my computer and what I leave on my phone. Now, in the main, most people use their iPhone, and iPhone can integrate with iCloud to bring the photos into your computer. And we've covered that in some of the iCloud sessions. But what I want to do now is just have a quick look at the preferences and look at iCloud. If we choose iCloud Photos, then all of the photos that are synced to iCloud will be automatically uploaded and downloaded into your computer. Now, the one thing to bear in mind over here is this is an either-or situation. If you upload items from your computer here into the cloud, so it's shared with any of your other devices and accessible through a web browser by going to www.icloud.com, you can do something called optimized max storage. And this is very similar to what Angela was covering the other day in optimizing the storage of your hard drive. If your Mac is low on space, the full resolution pictures will be stored in iCloud, and they'll be replaced with smaller thumbnail sized pictures. And then when you open up the pictures, you'll see them download. There's a little white progress bar, a little clock kind of, as Margie was describing it yesterday, to show you the download progress. And you'll probably see that in some of the files over here. The other thing we're going to be covering a little bit is shared albums. And this is a lovely way of sharing pictures that you've taken with other albums. If you've gone to an event together, we'll come into that in a little bit more detail. Okay, so firstly, it is possible to have more than one library on your iPhoto library or photo library on your computer. I only have one, and it's the default Photos library that's in the Pictures folder in my home folder. Now, why might I want to have 2 libraries? Well, I might have a library which is purely work-related, and I might have a library which is purely personal. So I might want to separate them physically into 2 separate libraries. So how do I create a new library? Because there is a no new library option over here. The way you do it is I'm going to quit Photos, and then if I hold the Option key down, it might be called Alt on some of your keyboards, and open it up, you'll see instead of the library open up, the library, your photo library, or your photos, opening it up, you'll see I only have one library over here, but I can make a new library. Or if I think that there's another library, but it's not showing here, I can choose other library and I'll get the open dialog box and it'll let me open more than one library. Just say create new, and you'll see photo library 2. Where do I want to store it? I could store it in an external drive. I do suggest that you look at the help file, because there are some implications about Time Machine and iCloud when it comes to looking at having more than one photo library. But only the system photo library is the one that you can share files out of and is synchronized with iCloud. You can't have both of them doing it at the same time. So that's the first thing. The second startup that I want to show you, let's just open this up again, is that if you think that there's something wrong with your library, you can repair your library. So if I go to my photos, and this time I hold the Command and the Option key down, I get this message that says, I'm about to repair the library, photos library. And this goes through all my images. It checks the metadata, it checks the thumbnails. If I'm seeing missing thumbnails in my library, I can click repair. I'm not going to do that because it can take a little while. But those are two things that you may not know about that might help you with maintenance on your library. Okay, so here's my library over here. Let's have a look at my library. I was asked earlier by Shelley, I think it was, do I use keywords? Keywords is an option here. I'm not going to cover it, but what I want to do in the first part of this session is cover organization. Photos does a really good job of organizing your images for you. And at some point, I'll also show you how to make albums, but in many respects, the necessity to make albums is kind of getting less and less and less, especially as more intelligence gets built into the software. So I've opened it up. I'm looking at my photos on the left-hand side, and photos are organized into years, months, and days, or all photos. I can adjust the size of the thumbnails that I view to very large, all the way down to teeny tiny. And as I make them very small, you'll see over here 2020, 2019, 2018. These go back to 2001. Which is when I first started using a digital camera, I guess. So that's pretty scary. That's about 18 years, 19 years worth of photographs. And again, I can zoom back in again. In the top right-hand corner, it's showing everything, but I can say, you know what, just show me my favorites. And now it's reduced all the pictures to things that are marked as favorites. Just show me the images that I've edited, okay? Because maybe I want to go back and change the editing, or just show me the photos, or just show me the videos. And Shelley, Keyword Manager, this is where I can take some keywords that I might have applied and use this to filter it down even further. Let's zoom all the way out over here. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom when I'm in all photos view, you'll see that I have nearly 25,000 pictures, 518 videos, in my photo library, and it's working pretty darn fast. So that's pretty nice. I can view my photos as all photos, as you've seen. Now, I can also view them as days. And I was kind of halfway scrolled down. Let's go down to the bottom here, over here. So you can see I'm viewing as days. And the last time I took a photograph was on Saturday and Sunday. Great photographer, right? This wasn't mine. But these are. And it tells me where it was taken, when it was taken. And as I scroll up, you can see more and more photos appear. So this is viewing on a day view. If I choose months, I zoom out slightly, and it's taken all those photos that were at the Table Mountain National Park and put them into a little container. So even though I'm viewing it by months, and we're only, what, halfway, coming to the end of the month, if I double click on this, it will open up and show me all those pictures that were taken in Table Mountain National Park. And it takes me back to days. If I go back to months, I can scroll up. Then if I go to years, it breaks everything down, 2020, 2018, 2019, and I could open up, say, 2017, and now I'm inside months of 2017. So navigating through the days, the years, the months has been made pretty nice, and it surfaces a lot of your images quite nicely. Over here, it tends to crop them nicely, puts faces in the middle, so it becomes quite easy to see the information that you're looking at. Okay, so that's looking at your pictures, days, months, years, and all photos. 3 times a day, photos will go through your images and go, oh, maybe I should build a memory for this person. So it's the 25th of June. So in the 25th of June, 2015, which was 15 years ago, we had a birthday party. And if I double click on this, these are the pictures that were taken during that birthday party. And what this does is it builds a little movie for me based on the photos of that day. So if I click on here, well, let me actually go back to a different memory, because these may take a little while to download. What the heck? Let's just take one. Okay. So if I click on this one and click play, you'll see it start to download, creating a movie. And it makes a little movie of that event. Now, I can save this movie out, I can share it, but I can also change it slightly, because what it's doing, well, there's only a few pictures of this event, but if there was more pictures, I could change this from short to long, and I could change the music as well. So it's taken a default kind of neutral view. So if I wanted to be really dreamy and sentimental, I could play this again. Equally, if I wanted to be uplifting, so if you're the type of person that doesn't like Apple doing stuff for you and you want to do it all yourself, guys, export them into iMovie, make your own music, make your own movies, do your own thing. But if you want to do, you'll be surprised, I think, how nice some of these things can be. If I click the back arrow here, I always zoom back out one level. So this is memories, can be fun. If I want to hallmark or make some pictures to find them quickly, I can make them favorites. Favorites typically are things that you might be wanting to build an album out of, or you want to be adding somewhere, because if you've got 5,000 favorites, they're no longer really your favorites. They're just things that you've marked that you don't know where to put somewhere else. How do I make a picture a favorite? I open it up, and in the top right-hand corner over here is a little heart. If I click on the heart, it's now a favorite. If I go back to my favorites, that picture has now been added to my favorites. If I want to unfavorite it, I select it and I uncheck the heart. It's no longer a favorite. So this is also a very useful way of making albums, putting collections together, just temporarily marking them as liked and so on. Moving on to people, the first time you open up photos, it scans through all of your images and it tries to do facial recognition. And then it asks you who these people are. Then subsequent to that, it'll go through and say, I know who these people are. Is this the right person? Is this the right person? So let me open up some pictures of my son. And these are all photos that have been acknowledged as being pictures of my son. So if I want to categorize photos by people, this is a very nice way of doing it. I have two states. I've got photos, but if I click on faces, it drills it right down. So instead of seeing any of the other people in the picture, you just see the faces of that particular person. And it also helps you, you can see these haven't been downloaded yet, that's why they're a little bit fuzzy. If I go to, let's see if I've got a picture with him or somebody else, if I double click on this one to open it up, you can see that this is my son Ethan over here, and there's two of his friends unnamed. If I knew what their names were, I'd click the names and it would create a little placeholder for them. And then if there were more pictures with them, it would say, is this the person who you're thinking of? In addition, I can show more, click more. So it was only showing me a summary. And this is now all of the photos that have been tagged with my boy's face. Okay. And if I get down to the bottom over there, you can see over here, confirm additional photos. So I'm in Ethan. If I click confirm additional photos, it's going to go, is this Ethan? No, yes, well it is. Click yes. Yep, that's him. Yep, that's him. Yep, that's him. No, that's not him. Yes, that's him. And so on. And I can stop now and come back to do them later. And those pictures will be added to the list of pictures. So if you want to find people very easily, this is also a nice way of doing it. Moving on to places. Every photograph that you take with an iPhone at least, and probably with the more modern cameras, will be stamped with metadata. We've talked about metadata before, additional information about your picture, like what camera took it, where it was taken, what the time of day it was. And the iPhone keeps all of that information. Not every camera does that. So let's go up here to Rwanda, for example. If I click once on that spot, it takes me and shows me every single picture that was taken in Rwanda. If I go back and I double click, it zooms me in. And as I get closer and closer, as we get more granular detail, you'll see that the pictures start to spread out. So now there was 9 pictures taken at the airport. There were 17 pictures taken here. I think this was a hotel in the center of town. If I click once now to open that up, there is 17 photos that were taken at the hotel where the conference that we were managing was held. So again, places, a lovely way to manage your photos. If you know when the photograph was taken, but you're not 100% sure when it was taken, go to places. It's also really important to make sure that your camera's date and time is set properly as well. Recents is very obvious. It's all the recent pictures that have been brought into your camera. Okay, so I'm going to skip these two. Let me just go down to make sure that I'm on track. Okay, so this is a nice way of categorizing this by people, places, favorites, and some memories. But there's another set of categorization that is done by the computer for us, and it breaks it out into types. So if I click media types and I choose videos over here, this is every video that's been imported from my phone. So there's 518 videos over here. It understands selfies. Right? I don't know how it does it, but it understands selfies. So all of your selfies are located in a particular place, and it also has the date and times that the pictures, as I scroll up, you can see the date and time changes. Those of you who have an iPhone would know about live photos. I can't tell you the number of times I've taken a live photo not knowing that I've taken a live photo, but a live photo is a photo that has a few frames before and afterwards, and it turns it into a movie. So if I double click on this one, this is a waterfall in the North Yorkshire Moors. This is just downloading it in the bottom right-hand corner. I did download it before, but my computer obviously decided that it needed more space, so it deleted it from the drive. Come on, hurry up. And as soon as that's done, if I now move my finger over the live, you can see I've got a 1.5 second video clip over here. So if I go in and edit the live photo, down at the bottom here, just move this guy off to the top, you'll see over here that I can click on the individual frames to see the frames that make up that picture. And I can change it from a live photo to a loop where it'll go round and round and round, a bounce where it will start and go back and forwards and backwards and forwards, or a long exposure where it will take the image and take all of the pictures and try to give you a picture that's maybe exposed more widely. But in this particular case, it's quite interesting because if I zoom in slightly, you'll see typically if you're taking a photograph of a waterfall, it freezes the water. But I'm sure you've seen these long exposures. This isn't the best example, but if you've seen these long exposures where the shutter's been open for a while and the water turns into a kind of misty affair, if I choose long exposure, it's just applying the variation. Hopefully it won't take too long. If it does, then this will literally turn into a nice kind of misty sheet rather than each individual frozen frame. Zoom in, there we go. So you can see instead of sharp droplets, we've got this nice curtain. And if my live picture was longer, it would have probably been even more pronounced. Okay, portraits. iPhone has, the newer ones have a portrait mode, and depending on the lighting and stuff that you do, you'll see that these were photographs that were taken, but it's automatically removed the background with white, it's automatically moved the background with black. So you can do some fun things with portrait, and it's taken all the ones in portrait mode and grouped them together. Some long exposures, well, that's a long exposure there. Panoramas, it takes pictures that are either very long, cheap. This isn't particularly smart because this is just something that was cropped into a very wide letterbox format, and it thinks this is a panorama, but it's not. But on the other hand, there's quite a few pictures that are panoramas. You can see I quite like my panoramas, and this groups them all together. Same with time lapses, same with slow motion. These are all things that you can do on your computer, on your phone. This is one that I've done. And again, it's downloading that. If I click on this, you can have a bit of fun with that. Bursts are the equivalent of a motor drive. So those of you with SLRs, you could get a very expensive motor that automatically triggered and let you take, depending on how robust the camera was, 4 or 10 pictures a second, one after the other. And what this does is you can do that on your phone by holding the shutter down and keeping it depressed. If I double click on this, you'll see that I have, let's wait for it to download again. Okay, if I click make a selection, you'll see that I held it down long enough for me to take, 7 pictures. So I can say, well, actually, I want that picture. Okay, and I can see it. Sorry, this is in my way at the moment. See if I can move you out the way. Yeah. So now I want this one to be my key frame. If I tap done, that's the picture that's going to be kept as the key frame. Screenshots. I do a lot of screenshots for some of the editing that I do. So this is anything that was taken off the computer. Screen recordings, any videos that I've recorded by using the screen recorded function, some animations. Can we go R? And so on. So, Shelley, going back to some of your questions earlier, there are a lot of things that the software does in order to help you keep your photographs in one place. And of course, we've got the search function built into Photos. There's some fairly strong machine learning. So if I tap search, and I haven't tagged any of these, and I just say horses, it brings up pictures with horses. If I take, that's not a horse. If I take, machine intelligence is not so intelligent. If I say mountain, here we've got pictures of mountains. There's a picture of a mountain. There's a mountain. There's a mountain. There's a mountain. There's some mountains. So the search functionality is pretty nice. Okay, so I've shown you how to do this automatically. Well, what if we want to make an album ourselves? Let me take these guys. Right? So firstly, if I wanted to make an album, you can see there's my albums. These have been made over the last 15, 20 years. So you can see it's pretty darn messy. I really need to go this and throw this away because I've made albums at some point for some reason, maybe to make a birthday card, maybe to do send a letter, maybe to make a presentation, but I haven't deleted the albums. So if I want to manually make an album, I can go File, just deselect everything, and say make a new album. And there's my album, and I'll just call this Demo 1. Okay. And now if I want to put any pictures into there, I can just take a photo, drag it into Demo 1, and if I put it in there, there's my photo. So I can select pictures individually or in groups, pop them into an album. If I want to do that a little bit quicker, I can select, using the Shift key, I can select all of these guys, so that's 10 photos selected. If I have some pictures selected, I can say make a new album with selection. It'll ask me for a name, Demo 2. And now I have an album with those pictures inside there. So that's an easy way of making a manually shared album. I can also make a smart album. And a smart album, for those of you who saw our Spotlight presentation, will know that you can make an album that responds to a certain set of criteria. So if I say, okay, let's make this Demo 3, match the criteria where the person in the picture is, let's say, Jenna. There we go. If I click, you see over there, it's matched 899 albums, 899 photos. I can add some more criteria, and I say that the date was added. I only want to see stuff that was taken maybe in the last year or 2 years. So let's say the last 2 years, and now there's 29 items. Obviously took a lot more pictures when she was a little girl. I click OK. There we go. These are all pictures that have been tagged with Jenna inside that were taken between July 2018 and July 2019. So there we go. So that's making albums. The last album that I want to show you is the shared album. And this one is, to my mind, probably the most useful one, or the one I like in the age of internet. And I'm going to do something a little scary for me now. So I'm going to select these pictures, and I want to make a shared album that all of you can access, both to view, but then I'm also going to make it possible for you to add your images. So I'm just going to take one picture. Let me take this mushroom over here. And I can either make it from the share menu over here, or from the share sheet that we've become familiar with. So I'm going to click that and make it a shared album. Okay, I'm going to say, please join me. Now, there's some existing shared albums that I've made that I've shared with family in the past or work colleagues, but I'm going to make a new shared album, and I'm going to call this photo demo. And initially, I'm just going to invite Angelo Martin. There we go. And I'm going to say, yeah, please join me in this album. And I'm going to, let me just put a bullet point in front of it so it becomes easy to find. Create. And if I go down to go to my shared albums, let's just close these guys up, make it a little easier to navigate. There we go, photo demo. There's an album over here with one photo inside it. And those of you who've joined our pages and our collaborative files app demo will probably recognize this guy, because this tells me now that this is shared by myself with Angelo Martin. And Angelo will get an invitation in his email because I put his email address, inviting him to share the album, and he'll be able to upload photos to it. But what I want to do is I want to make this website public so that anybody can view and share this album. And I'm going to share this with you guys inside the chat window, and you're welcome to click on it to see whether you can add things to it. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to the chat area. I'm going to paste that in there. If you folks see that link over there, if you click on it, it will take you into your web browser and it'll open it up and you'll be able to view that album. So if I go to a wedding and I want to share this with all the family, but I don't have their email addresses and so on, here we go. Albums, images. Angelo's already starting to add a photo into this. So this is lovely, because if you've got as I said, a public event and you've got members of your family and everybody's taking photos, you can make this public, you can invite them all, and then people can add all of their pictures, and then you can make a book, you can make a slideshow, you can make a movie, you can make a memory, and so on. I'm not quite sure how many people. I've still got 21 people in here. I haven't even touched on editing, and I'm not going to spend a long time on editing, but if people need to leave, that's fine. But I'd like to go in and talk about editing for a few minutes, if that's all right with you guys. Let's have a look at an image. I'm going to search for rhino. And I've got some pictures of rhinos over here, but I think I can make these images look a little better. So I'm going to double click on this one. And this is an image that I took at Aquila, and I want to do some editing to it. Well, the first thing I can do here is click on the auto enhance. Again, this is for people who are not interested in doing their own work. Now, when I go into edit this, I have 3 primary areas where I can work. Often the first thing you might want to do is crop your image. And cropping the image allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to resize and crop the image. And it also allows you to straighten your horizon. Now, in the main, it does a reasonably good job of leveling the horizon, but sometimes it gets it wrong. So it's going to push that up a little bit further over there. I can flip the image horizontally if I wanted to. And the other thing that's quite nice now is if I need to prepare this to put it into a presentation or to put it into a movie and I want it exactly the right size, I can say, I don't want my aspect ratio to be free form. I want it to be 16:9. And now I can resize this, and I can't change the ratio between the horizontal and the vertical cropping. It will always be exactly the right aspect ratio for my movie so that when I pop it in, there won't be any black spaces on the side, there won't be any black spaces at the top. So that's a useful little tool for our cropping. You can do filters. Everybody's seen this. Make it vivid, make it warm. Personally, I'm not a big fan of them, but some people like them. The only ones I do use sometimes is black and white, because some of the black and white filters are quite nice. But typically I tend to do this. But now, all the time I'm editing these, oh, and by the way, I can zoom in and work on some sort of detail over here. Oh, maybe I'll crop it like that. Is that if I put a filter on here, let's make that black and white, next to the revert to original, which we can do at any time, I have this little button which shows me what the original looks like and what it looks like now. So just clicking on that and releasing it toggles between the existing view and the original view. Okay, let's zoom out. But the other tool, which if you really need to start working in any detail, is your adjustment tools. And here we can adjust the light, the color, black and white. There's so many tools here that are really Photoshop level. And if you don't understand some of them, that could be a problem. For example, curves allows me to adjust pretty much everything on this image. I can adjust my black point, my white point. I can raise the dark levels higher, make them darker. I can make the light levels. It doesn't have to be a linear thing. I can literally build edit points on this and adjust curves. So if I'm a photographer who understands the nature of RGB, red, green, and blue, I could just adjust the red, the green, the blue. There is some stunningly strong tools over here that will help me improve my image. If I adjust the light, I can drag this left and right, and you can see that when you're adjusting the light, it's actually doing some smart stuff. It's not just giving you more detail in your shadows and less detail and more contrast. It's actually adjusting all of those. So it's making it brighter, it's taking the highlights down, it's increasing the detail in the shadows, increasing the contrast, and so on. And then we can go in and adjust each one of these individually. And you can see what it's doing on the histogram down here at the bottom. You click auto, it will try to do its best for you. Again, red eye, it seems to be something of the past these days, red eye, but if you turn on red eye, you can get a little brush that will let you take the color out. But using exactly the same technique, we can do a retouch. If I wanted to, if there was a blemish or a tear on the image, let's say I wanted to get rid of this rock, I can just click on it and the rock's gone. So if I've got a post, it tries to do some smart calculations. It looks to the left, it looks to the right, and it tries, if I've got a telegraph pole, I could get rid of the telegraph pole just by dragging out. It's not perfect, but it does a reasonably good job on it. And yes, it's really, given the time we've got, we really don't have the time to look at all of these things. But we've got sharpen, we've got noise reduction, we can select colors and boost them and drop them, and we can make a vignette where we can increase the shadow detail around the edge, make it white, make it dark, increase or decrease the radius, the harshness or the softness of the contrast. So we really can edit our picture in quite some detail. If I click done, come back to my image, I've got a picture that has now been edited. I go, oh my gosh, actually, I wish I still had the original so that I could revert it back and doing something different. Well, I can. If I click edit, 5 years down the line, I can come back to this and say revert to original, and I'll get my original image. One last thing on this editing, Apple introduced this scheme where applications could talk to each other. So if I click on this little ellipsis over here, and I've got some third-party applications that might do stuff that works a little bit better than photo, I could choose Pixelmator Retouch, and it'll take this image and it'll allow me to edit in a third-party program and then bring the information back and keep my library inside Photos. So that is our tour of Photos. I hope I've answered some of the questions. Again, a very big topic. Let me end my screen sharing. A very big topic to deal with. And if there's issues that I've not dealt with that you'd really like me to cover, please mail us at training@digicape.co.za, and we'll cover the elements that you think are important. Some questions.
Alan, it's Louis. How are you?
Okay, Louis. Go, Louis. Then Michael.
Is there an option to, if you've got duplicate pics that you've downloaded over a period of time onto a hard drive and you've got more than one copy, is there a way of going through it to delete your second copy?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. Let me have a quick look at mine, because I know that there are third-party tools that will go through it and check for duplicates. I don't believe it does. I don't believe it does. Yeah. The software that I've used in the past is something called Gemini. Gemini 2, if you do a search for Gemini. But if you just do a Google search for removing duplicates from photos, I think you'll find more than one. Michael, you had a question, and then Margie.
Yes, thanks very much, Alan. I must say, it looks like Kodak's not going to be making a comeback anytime soon.
No. No.
Just quickly, how do you, on the editing side, I've never been very successful in taking a picture. Let's take the hippo, for example, and and getting the entire background out and just keeping the hippo.
That's not the easiest thing in the world to do. There are, the tool that I use to do that sort of stuff is I pop it into Keynote, Numbers, or Pages, and I use the Instant Alpha tool. The flatter the background image, the easier it is to remove the background. The more complex the image, the more work you've got to do on it. The only other way of doing it is using, say, you need to get a more sophisticated tool like, in Photoshop, they've got the magic wand that will help you to remove the foreground from the background, but you're paying some good money. If you don't have the budget for Photoshop, I purchased a program called Pixelmator, which is, to all intents and purposes, a Photoshop clone, but it's considerably cheaper. I think it cost me, I can't remember now, but it was something like $50 as opposed to $500. It was a tenth of the price, whatever it was. And there's another company called Affinity, which is also doing lower priced Photoshop, or at least Adobe type products. There's Affinity Designer, and I think it's Affinity Photo, which has very, very good reviews, but I haven't got unlimited budget. So I got Pixelmator, and that's the one I'm sticking with.
Thank you.
Margie, you had a question?
Yeah, first of all, I'm just continuously blown away with what Mac products can do. Like, why would anybody buy anything else? I just don't get it. But I think most people don't realize just what this can do. It's amazing. What I need to know is, how do I stop my photos on my Mac automatically downloading onto my iPhone and my iPad? Because I keep deleting them on my iPhone and then they come back. So
you need to check your iCloud settings on each device. And each device will allow you to choose what happens to the pictures on there. So for example, if I take photos on my phone, I want them to come into my main library here because they all get backed up here and they're stored on the cloud as well. But I don't necessarily want images that I work on my iPad to come onto my Mac. So each one will say upload automatically or not. So check your iCloud settings on each device, read them carefully, and then make sure that they're set correctly. If you have an issue with it, then give us a shout. We'll send you a technician at vast amounts of money to help you. Shelley, you had a question? You're muted.
I'm receiving photographs from an iPhone, a Huawei or something, onto my iPhone. How do I get those onto my Mac?
Well, if they go into your photo library, they should automatically sync. If you've got your iPhoto library, if you've got your photo library on your iPhone set to sync with iCloud, and your Mac is designed to set up to download the pictures automatically, they should come along with the pictures that you've taken on your phone. Okay, guys, quite a long one today.
Yeah, great, thank you.
And thank you all for sticking around. When I prep these things, sometimes I over prepare. And I think, I'm going to rush through this in 20 minutes. I'm not going to have anything to say. And then you start working your way through, and you over prepare. But it was fun, and I hope you got some good value out of it today.
Excellent. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
Thank
Alan.
you. That's
All
always,
right, guys.
always interesting.
Thank you. But the next one is family sharing on Monday with Angelo. So we look forward to seeing you all there, and have a lovely weekend all.
Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you.
Same to you. Okay, thanks then. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bye all.
everybody. Thanks, Angela. Thanks, Alan.
Bye.